Christus. Praise be Jesus Christ. A very warm welcome to you on behalf of Vatican Media, Vatican Radio, and all my colleagues here at the Vatican Dicastery for Communication. I'm Sean Patrick Lovett. It's my privilege to provide the commentary for this live broadcast of Pope Francis. Address a conference entitled Mediterranean Frontier of Peace. It's a conference that's seen the participation over the last few days of some 60 Catholic bishops from 19 nations bordering the Mediterranean. The Holy Father will be addressing the conference shortly, and then later this morning celebrating Holy Mass here in the city of Bari. On whatever platform, medium, or device you may be following this event, please know we're delighted you could join us. We do especially welcome our friends of Salt and Light TV, EWTN TV, Shalom World TV, and Catholic TV, as well as all of you listening on local radio stations around the world. This broadcast is also available to you right now on our Vatican Media audio app and Vatican News portal, which you can access at www.vaticannews.va. That's Vatican News with two N's, .va for Vatican. If you're able to follow the visuals of this event, then you will see the Holy Father has literally just arrived. He is entering the cathedral at this moment, and you will see that gathered there to greet him are these bishops, around 60 of them, from the 19 nations bordering the Mediterranean Sea. The event has been organized by the Italian Bishops' Conference, and the idea is that it focuses on key issues facing the region. The works of the conference began last Wednesday when participants gathered for the opening ceremony. On Thursday, they discussed the topic, delivering the faith to future generations. And Friday's theme was the relationship between church and society, mobility, citizenship, religious freedom, and inequality. Both days included morning round table discussions and assembly discussions in the afternoon. On Saturday, yesterday, an assembly was held for general conclusions that will be condensed into a final document. And in a few moments we will hear Pope Francis address the meeting as he also receives that document. Among the topics, of course, migration, given the situation of the Mediterranean and the numbers of people trying to enter Europe, either from the Middle East or North Africa, many of them trafficked, exploited, caught in inadequate policies for reception and integration. And another important topic, the dwindling Christian communities in some Middle Eastern countries impacted by the rise of the so-called Islamic states. But let's listen closely now. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, should be beginning in just a few moments. He's taken his place behind a table here, draped in green cloth, surrounded by cardinals and brother bishops. But of course, we'll listen to the welcome address.
E benvenuto. Con profonda riconoscenza le porgo il saluto cordiale di tutte le chiese cattoliche che si affacciano sulle sponde del Mediterraneo e dei popoli che essi rappresentano.
The welcome address is given by Cardinal Gualtiero Bassetti. He's the president of the Italian Bishops' Conference. He's also Archbishop of Perugia and Città della Pieve. And it falls to him to greet Pope Francis. In fact, he says, with deep gratitude, I extend to you the cordial greetings of all the Catholic churches that overlook the shores of the Mediterranean Sea and all the peoples they represent. Your presence, he says, crowns these days of encounter and reflection, of kinship and sharing. The initiative draws on ancient and deep roots, says Cardinal Bassetti. It embodies the prophetic vision of Giorgio Lapiera, Giorgio Lapira was an Italian politician, twice mayor of Florence. He died in 1977, and he participated in writing the Italian Constitution. Giorgio Lapira, says the Cardinal, since the late 1950s, inspired what he called the Mediterranean dialogue, the ecumenical spirit, blow with great force in the countries lining the Mediterranean with transcendence.
Con questo incontro abbiamo iniziato, perché io ho detto si è fatta la luce. Anche Dio, quando creò l'universo, il primo giorno creò la luce. Noi siamo
From this comes the common vision not only of the sacredness of every human life, but also its intangibility. With this meeting, says the Cardinal, we've begun to put this vision into practice, listening
e cercando i segni dei tempi nelle parole e nella testimonianza
listening to the Lord,
presenza e dalla storia di ciascuno di noi.
the signs of the times,
Ne sono parte
in the words and witness offered by the presence and history of each one of us.
Spirituali, ecclesiologiche, ricchezze che mentre si distinguono contribuiscano a rendere viva e preziosa.
Part of this presence and history, he says, are the riches of the many liturgical, spiritual, and ecclesiological traditions. Riches that,
metodo sinodale,
while distinguishing us, contribute to making the experience of communion alive
non
and
abbiamo
precious.
grandi conclusioni, ma come lei desidera abbiamo avviato un processo importante che vogliamo
Begun an important process, he says, using the synodal method which characterized our work. It marks the beginning of this process, which requires from each one
ora intendiamo offrirle.
a new willingness to be involved
Di quanto è emerso
with our hearts open.
perché con il suo
And
magistero
this is what we now intend to offer you, together with a summary of what emerged from our assembly,
ancora Santo Padre senta davvero di poter
so that by your magisterium you may enlighten us, provoke us, and accompany us. Thank you again, Your Holiness. Know that you can count on our affection and our commitment. Those were the words of welcome, the opening address by the President of the Italian Bishops' Conference, Cardinal Gualtiero Bassetti.
Padre, lo saluto cordialmente e ringrazio tutti coloro che hanno dato il loro contribuito nell'organizzazione di questo incontro, specialmente la Conferenza Episcopale Italiana. Per noi vescovi provenienti da paesi dove i cattolici sono minoranza, questo convenire è un segno visibile dell'attenzione.
We're listening now to the voice of Cardinal Vinko Pulic. He's the Archbishop
del Mediterraneo.
of Sarajevo, and he's President of the Bishops' Conference of Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Nell'Eucaristia, in questa città così ricca di storia e una...
Holy Father, he says, I cordially greet you and I thank all those who have contributed to organizing this meeting, especially the Italian Bishops' Conference.
Sono lieto di...
For us bishops, coming from countries where Catholics are a minority, this coming together is a visible sign of attention and fraternity among the churches of the Mediterranean. Today we're happy to join you in celebrating the Eucharist in this city, which is so rich in history, and in a region, the southern Italian region of Puglia, where Cardinal Pulic says he also finds his personal roots.
Nel Mediterraneo nord-orientale, alla fine del XX secolo, abbiamo vissuto in misura maggiore o minore un inverno di omicidi.
Holy Father, he says, I'm pleased to inform you that in our work we've looked for ways to realize the possibilities of mobility, equality, and religious freedom in all the countries of our Mediterranean. As pastors, we've made ourselves a voice of the pain and suffering of our churches and our people. In the northeastern Mediterranean, at the conclusion of the 20th century, we lived to a greater or lesser extent what the Cardinal calls a winter of murder, destruction, and persecution. But he adds, it's not spring either for North Africa and the Middle East, where the churches endure wounds and suffering in the form of violence, conflict, and divisions of all kinds, caused largely by wealthy countries. Holy Father, says Cardinal Pulic, all of us are heartbroken by the departure of so many young people, a departure caused by war, injustice, and poverty. Nevertheless, he says, we're comforted by those young people who do remain, showing extraordinary courage and great love for the country and the people. We're also glad to see a large number of elderly people who deeply believe that the present and future are not primarily in the hands of the powerful of this world, but in the hands of God. As bishops of these countries, we are often among the strongest supporters of dialogue in terms of equality and love for the local people and the local church.
Internamente l'anima dell'uomo e delle chiese. Mi tornano alla memoria la parola.
During this meeting, we didn't speak much about the spirit of secularism and consumerism, which internally damages the soul of humanity and the churches.
Della greda mi disse, non so più.
Cardinal Pulic says he's reminded of the words of a cardinal from Western Europe who, during a visit to his city of Sarajevo, during the difficult days of the war, said to him, I don't know whether it's more difficult for you to see these churches demolished or for me to see churches sold, because many Catholics no longer feel the desire to pray.
E l'inverno come primavera. Siamo contenti che durante questo
The enemy, he says, constantly wants to represent the culture of death as a culture of life, and winter as spring.
Insieme modi di cooperazione e sostegno. Abbiamo bisogno di sentirci.
We are happy that during these days we have met hearts that are willing to listen, to think with us, and to seek together ways of cooperation and support.
Di più per costruire la pace, il dialogo e la cooperazione.
Cardinal Pulic says we need to feel accompanied and supported by those in power, to whom we ask to work harder to build peace, dialogue, and cooperation. We feel the importance of being visited by other pastors in our churches and of helping us to find ways to accomplish our mission in this world.
Non siamo soli, ma abbiamo comunità più grandi e più forti che sono pronte a difenderci e riconoscerci.
We rejoice every time someone visits our churches and our countries, showing everyone that we are not alone. We have larger and stronger communities that are ready to defend us and to recognize us in a relationship of communion and fraternity. Holy Father, I'd like to express our gratitude because you have come among us on this occasion. I thank you also for visiting many local churches in countries where, as Christians, we are less numerous. Thank you, Holy Father. We will gladly pray for you. That was the President of the Bishops' Conference of Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Archbishop of Sarajevo, Cardinal Vinko Pulic, addressing
Padre, mi
Pope
sono
Francis.
chiesto di presentarle in maniera molto breve
quello che abbiamo fatto in questi 3 giorni. Sono stati 3 giorni di riflessione e preghiera molto belli e sono stati anche una bella esperienza.
And this is Archbishop Pier Pizzaballa. He's the Apostolic Administrator Sedevacante of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem. And he says that he is being asked by his brother bishops to summarize in a very brief way the works and conclusions of the past few days.
Del Mare Nostrum. Ci siamo poi scambiati esperienze.
Holy Father, he says these 3 days of reflection and prayer were a beautiful experience of the Church, which brought us closer to each other in a more concrete way. We listened to one another, and most of all, we listened to the cry coming from the territories on the southern shore of what is known as the Mare Nostrum, our sea. It's an old Latin term for the Mediterranean. We exchanged experiences and proposals.
Cosa accade in Libia o nella sponda del Medio Oriente.
He gives various examples of being aware of what's happening on the shores of the Mediterranean, in Libya and elsewhere.
Hanno reso questo bacino centro di interessi enormi. Il destino di intere popolazioni è asservito all'interesse di pochi.
We gave ourselves certain perspectives and aims, he says. The first was to listen. We wanted to listen to the reality of which we are part. For centuries, the Mediterranean has been at the center of cultural, commercial, and religious exchanges of all kinds.
Sono state funzionali a tale modello.
But it's also been the scene of wars, conflicts, and even political and religious divisions.
Chiedere perdono, in particolare per avere consegnato ai giovani
in the present,
e ci impegniamo a purificare.
Decreasing, all this seems to be increasing. We have commercial wars, energy wars, economic and social inequalities that have made the Mediterranean the center of huge interest. The fate of entire peoples is enslaved to the interests of the few, causing violence that is functional to development models created and supported largely by the West. In the past, it's enough to think of the colonial period. We've seen examples of this model. Today we want to ask forgiveness in particular for having delivered this wounded world to our young people. Our churches in North Africa and the Middle East are the ones paying the highest price. Decimated in numbers, we remain a small minority, but these churches are not renouncing their beliefs. On the contrary, they have rediscovered the essentials of the Christian faith and witness.
Che non hanno bisogno solo di aiuti economici, ma innanzitutto di solidarietà, di sentirsi ascoltate, che qualcuno faccia propria la loro difficile realtà. Dove però
there are communities that in the face of enormous difficulties and even persecution have remained faithful to Christ. The way of the cross is proper to the experience of the Mediterranean churches.
Come chiese di fronte a tutto ciò.
And Archbishop Pizzaballa says he's thinking in particular of the fate of thousands of migrants fleeing from situations of persecution and poverty who have changed the face of many of our churches.
Di costruire vie diverse.
The churches of the Middle East and North Africa have repeatedly reaffirmed that they not only need economic aid, but first of all they need solidarity. They need to feel listened to, that someone makes their difficult reality their own.
Innumerevoli iniziative di solidarietà e di vicinanza ai poveri.
Where there's the light of the many witnesses of fidelity and human and Christian solidarity.
In questi giorni hanno detto che al dialogo preferiscono la convivialità, perché noi viviamo insieme. Attraverso il dialogo ormai
the second point that Archbishop Pizzaballa brings out
attraverso il dialogo ecumenico tra le chiese
their aim was to share experiences and proposals, and so they asked, what can we do as churches in the face of these challenges? If current models of development subject the human person to consumption and violence, our communities, he said, do not stop building alternative ways of peace, development, and growth. Ways that are a witness to our Christian style of being within our realities, ways that place the person at the center in schools, hospitals, and various initiatives of solidarity and closeness to the poor.
Che causa la povertà e crea situazioni strutturali di ingiustizia. In un contesto spesso ricco di manipolazioni, le nostre chiese desiderano diventare un'unica...
Dialogue is the other form of expression in our church life, he said. Through ecumenical dialogue among the churches, we're committed to organizing common prayers for peace on a permanent basis, to establishing interreligious committees where they don't exist, especially with Muslim believers, carrying out works of solidarity, sharing together. We want to make fraternity and human solidarity grow and transform it into experience. This perspective also involves parousia, the frankness of denouncing the evil that causes poverty and creates structural situations of injustice. In a context often rich in manipulation, says Archbishop Pizzaballa, our churches want to become the one prophetic voice of truth and freedom. The third aim was creating perspectives. We insisted, he said, on strengthening initiatives of mutual knowledge, facilitating the twinning of dioceses and parishes, the exchange of priests, experiences of seminarians, and forms of volunteer work. Their motto, he says, was "Come and see." So far, perhaps, there's been much talk about the churches and their realities. Now we must move on to talking with the churches and their realities. Hospitality, he says, which is typical of Mediterranean culture, must begin, first of all, among us. In a complex and articulated reality like the Mediterranean one, we intend taking on its contradictions, learning and teaching to live it with Christian hope.
Una cultura di pace e comunità.
We're only at the beginning of a long but definitely exciting journey, which is why we've decided to continue to meet permanently, so that little by little, in the times that the Lord will indicate, we can build a common path where a culture of peace and communion can grow in our wounded and torn contexts. And yes, that was Archbishop Pier Battista Pizzaballa, Apostolic Administrator, Sede Vacante of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem, summing up for the Holy Father a bit of the work of this meeting over the past 3 days. And now we listen to our Holy Father.
Per aver accettato l'invito della Conferenza Episcopale Italiana partecipare a questo incontro che riunisce le chiese del Mediterraneo.
Dear brothers, I am pleased that we can meet you. I'm grateful that each of you has accepted the invitation of the Italian Bishops' Conference to participate in this meeting, which brings together the churches of the Mediterranean.
Con i capi delle chiese cristiane, ortodosse, cattoliche, qui a Bari.
The Pope is recalling the encounter with the heads of Christian churches and Orthodox churches here in Bari.
Messi, che se fa un gesto di unità così, quello era la prima volta dopo il grande scisma, che eravamo tutti.
He is referring to a previous visit to Bari in July 2018 when he met with leaders of Catholic and Orthodox Christians.
Io credo che potremmo chiamare Bari la capitale dell'unità.
He says we could call Bari the capital of unity. He has permission to call Bari the capital of church unity. And he thanks everyone for their words of welcome.
Quando a suo tempo il Cardinale Bassetti mi presentò l'iniziativa, la colsi subito.
When Cardinal Bassetti presented the idea of coming here to me, I readily accepted it, said Pope Francis, seeing it as an opportunity to begin a process of listening and discussion aimed at helping to build peace in this crucial part of the world.
E testimoniare il valore
For that reason, I want to be present and testify to the importance
di cui voi siete espressione
of the new model of fraternity and collegiality that you represent.
che voi avete aggiunto al dialogo, convivialità.
He refers to that word that the bishops added to dialogue, conviviality.
Nella città di Bari, così
I find it significant that this meeting takes place in Bari,
in Medio Oriente come con il continente africano.
this city is so important for its links with the Middle East and Africa. It's an eloquent sign of the deeply rooted relationships between different peoples and traditions.
Da sempre tiene vivo il dialogo ecumenico e interreligioso, adoperando
The Diocese of Bari tirelessly to create bonds of mutual esteem and fraternity. No coincidence, he says, that I chose Bari a year and a half ago to meet leaders of Christian communities in the Middle East for an important moment of discussion and fellowship meant to help our sister churches to journey together and to feel closer to one another. You've come together in this particular context to reflect on the transmission of the faith and the promotion of peace. The Mare Nostrum is the physical and spiritual locus where our civilization took shape as a result of the encounter of diverse peoples. By its very configuration, this sea forces surrounding peoples and cultures to constant interaction, to recall what they have in common.
Possono godere delle opportunità che questa regione offre.
And to realize that only by living in concord can they enjoy the opportunities this region offers,
delle varie tradizioni.
thanks to its resources, its natural beauty, and its varied human traditions.
Di tale area non è diminuita in seguito alle dinamiche determinate della globalizzazione.
In our own day, the importance of this area has not decreased in the wake of the process of globalization. On the contrary, globalization has highlighted the role of the Mediterranean as a crossroads of interest and important social, political, and economic currents. The Mediterranean remains a strategic region whose equilibrium has an impact on the other parts of the world. For Francis says, the size of the Mediterranean could be said to be inversely proportional to its importance. Defining it as the great Sea of Galilee, he drew an analogy between Jesus' time and our own, between his milieu and that of the peoples of our time. Just as Jesus lived and worked in a context of differing cultures and beliefs, so we find ourselves in a multifaceted environment, scarred by divisions and forms of inequality that lead to instability. Amid deep fault lines and economic, religious, concessional, and political conflicts, we are called to offer our witness to unity and peace. And we do so prompted by our faith and membership in the Church, seeking to understand the contribution that we, as disciples of our Lord, can make to all the men and women of the Mediterranean region.
The
transmission of the faith is necessarily enriched by the heritage of the Mediterranean region. That heritage has been fostered, preserved, and kept alive by Christian communities through catechesis and the celebration of the sacraments, the formation of consciences, and individual and communal hearing of the Lord's Word. Specifically, thanks to popular piety, the Christian experience has taken on a form both meaningful and enduring. Popular devotion is, for the most part, expressed in straightforward and authentic faith. And here the Pope says he wants to quote
numero 48 dell'Evangelii Nunziandi.
Number 48 of Evangelii
dove San Paolo
Nunziandi
cambia il nome di religiosità a pietà,
where St. Paul changes the word
ci sono le
religiosity to piety.
le mancanze. Quel numero deve essere di guida
That number should be
nel nostro
a guideline
annuncio del Vangelo.
in the way we announce, claim the gospel to
In
our
quest'area
people, says the
un
Pope.
deposito di enorme potenzialità e anche quello artistico,
In this region,
i contenuti della fede alla ricchezza
one deposit of remarkable potential
opere d'arte.
is its art,
È un patrimonio
which combines
che attrae
the
continuamente
content of the faith with cultural treasures and beautiful artworks.
con cura quelle preziose eredità
This heritage continues to attract millions of visitors from every part of the world
alle generazioni future.
and must be carefully preserved as a precious legacy received on loan
Non può
to be handed on to future generations.
bene comune